Hello, welcome back to another episode of Napkin Numbers. This is part 3 of 3 for our business life cycle and corporate funding cycle series. Last episode, we covered the launch and growth phases of the cycles. Today, we're going to be covering the next 3 phases, which are shakeout, maturity, and decline. So let's get to it. All right, what you're going to see here on our graph is the business life cycle shakeout. What is that? The shakeout phase is a stage in the business life cycle that occurs after the growth phase. During this phase, sales are going to continue to increase, but at a slower rate, and profits are going to start to decrease. This is usually due to other competitors coming into the market saturation, and the shakeout phase can be characterized in one of 3 ways here. Increased costs, sales growth and profit decline can lead to increased costs. Increased regulation, so as people understand the industry better, regulators may start to catch up. And lastly, differentiation. Winners in the market may have differentiated themselves, making it harder for others to compete. For instance, we make some sort of product that nobody else can do, and now we're running around getting our products spec'd by state agencies and municipalities, and we're pushing everybody out because they can't match what we're making because everything is spec'd for our product. So during that shakeout phase, businesses have to adapt their strategies to maintain their market position and prepare for future phases. For example, they may need to focus on reducing expenses, launching new products, or expanding into new markets. They may also need to consider pivoting and embracing change rather than trying to patch leaks. Shakeout phase can lead to weaker competitors failing or merging with competitors, which we're seeing a lot of right now in the M&A space. Lots of consolidation. For example, in the holiday gift buying season, retailers may decide to drop some brands and only carry a few. Next is the corporate funding life cycle of the shakeout. In this phase, the industry experiences steep growth, leading to fierce competition in the marketplace. However, as sales peak, the debt financing life cycle increases exponentially, and companies prove their successful positioning in the market, exhibiting their ability to repay debt. Business risk continues to decline. Now I'm going to turn over to Scott to talk about maturity.
Yeah, the last 2 phases, maturity and decline. So the funny thing is that they're really close together, and most business owners don't notice when they move from one to the other, which is why they end up in decline. So let's talk a little bit about maturity. When you get to this point, it's usually a what do I do now type of a question. Your business has been going on for a while, you've had success, your sales start to decrease a little bit, you're rounding that top end, profit margins are thinner, right? You got all these people competing. So, but you're generating cash every single day. So you're excited. But this is where you start to get this interesting decision, right? It's this third phase in that business life cycle, or fourth phase, depending on how many you add up. It's where the company's stable, profitable, you're secure, you're confident, strong brand recognition. People know who you are. They're buying because of you. But this is where there's a few other things that come up. So let's talk about them in categories like sales, right? They decrease. We already talked about that. Profit margins get thinner. You've got competition, right? The market's saturated. Competition is probably higher than any of the other stages. This is where also you'll start to see more and more innovation. If you're trying to differentiate or break away from what currently is being sold out there, this is where you start thinking, hey, how can I make version 2 of what I'm doing? Right? You also have your brand image that wants to be first and foremost. When they're out there talking to people, now they know who you are, so you've got to deliver. And the owner, here's the fun part, right? The owner at this stage usually starts to say, hey, I can pay myself a regular salary. I can have employees start managing day-to-day operations. So when you look at the funding life cycle, this is one of the best parts, right? You have low business risk. You're very well established. Banks say, hey, take all of our money. What kind of project do you want funded? And they really start opening up the checkbooks for you. So a lot of the business risk is gone, and you'll see the debt funding availability out there it starts to go upward. So Now, why does that become a problem and start to move into the decline phase? Because this is where you have to make that decision. When you're in maturity, you're going to make that decision of, do I continue my business life cycle, right? It was going like this, it starts to dip down. Do I reinvest time, money, effort? Or do I start to fade away into that next chapter of my life? So as you move into decline, and again, this is what I said, where people can kind of end up here and not realize it, is this is what the decline sales look like. You couldn't keep up with your competition. You took kind of your hand off the wheel, your foot off the gas, and you didn't adjust to the market. And now people don't want what you have to sell, right? And so now everything starts going down. All of your sales, the profit that you were making, all the cash flow that you had, all of those are in decline. And that's usually where now you start to go, oh my gosh, I have to exit the market, right? You're losing that competitive advantage. So, and just to touch on what does a corporate funding life cycle look in this is basically where everything starts to decline, right? So because of that, sometimes your business risk, it'll go to zero because you're just well established. Your debt funding need, maybe they'll give you a lot of money, but there can be a disconnect with, are you relevant, and your projections and where you're going to be. And you may not have the projects that you want to fund to the next stage. So what do you do when you find yourselves entering maturity or parts of decline as a business owner? So you're really faced with two big choices. Do you continue on? Again, reinvest those resources, time, money, and effort, or do you move on to that next chapter of your life? And if you're going to move on, this is where you shouldn't do like, hey, I'm selling tomorrow. You start having a plan. You want to start setting goals over the next 3 to 5 years, like an exit timeline, what your strategy is, retirement age. Start getting a range of value on your business. Assemble your transition team. You're going to need a tax advisor, legal, accounting, wealth advisor, insurance, business broker or intermediary, and maybe even a real estate agent if you've got real estate. You want to keep up on your financial and operational records, and you want to have a plan B in case plan A doesn't work. So as we round out the maturity and the decline phases, they happen really close to each other. And for most business owners, it's that thought process of, do I keep going or do I retire? And with that, Rahsaan, I'll take it over and give it to you so you can wrap it up.
As you can see, the business life cycle and corporate funding cycles are extremely important for business owners to understand. I'm hopeful these last few episodes provided some insight as to how they are tied together and that you can walk away with additional insight on your business. Thank you for checking us out. Like and subscribe. See you next time.